Hi everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name's Jillian and I'm a second year PhD student. And today I'm talking about how I study as a PhD student. Obviously not every PhD student studies the same, but I just wanted to put together some tips and things that I do to personally study to compile a lot of information in my brain in a shorter amount of time. As I've continued my higher education, I feel that I've focused on learning how to learn. I think that whether you're in high school or you're pursuing your PhD, it's really important to see and figure out how your brain retains information the best. And figuring out kind of what your strengths and weaknesses are when it comes to studying can help you conceptualize and retain information a little bit better. The reason I made this video, how to study like a PhD, is because I've realized that PhD brains think differently. So far through grad school, it's taught me that not only do you need to learn the information that is on the exam, but you need to use that information to then solve problems and critically think how to figure out the issue or the problem that's presented to you. So that being said, as I've gone through high school, college, and now going through my PhD, I feel that my study habits have changed a lot, and so today I've compiled some tips and things that have helped me along the way, and I hope that this can help someone out there as well. So the first thing that you need to do when you have a big exam coming up or you want to get on top of a subject that you really need to learn is to get organized. I think that you have to be very strategic in whatever you do, and a lot of PhD students I've noticed are so organized about how they're going to approach their next exam or how they're going to approach something that they need to study up on. It's actually crazy. I didn't realize how organized you can get when it comes down to it. But this could be as simple as a mind map or even an outline of different topics that you need to study. One way to do this is to use Notion. I know last year when I was doing this really hard course, my first year of my PhD, I made this outline and to-do list for each unit that I needed to get done, and this included things that had memorization techniques, rewriting notes, reviewing notes, and through that I would say whether I've done and accomplished that task or whether I'm still working on it or whether it's finished. I just repeated myself. So another great app that I have been loving using is our sponsor for today, which is Skrinntal. And this is a great way to have a digital mind map. And as I said before, I love using a good mind map. I think that is a great way to brain dump. It's also a great way to visualize different topics that you need to review or even get your topics together. And I think that this could be used for either studying like I have been using it for, and this way you can use topics and then branches off of that topic. You can look at more of the nitty-gritty details of things that you need to review or you don't understand. Another way that you could use Skrinntal is to organize your thoughts for a research paper. There are just so many opportunities and endless ways you can use Skrinntal. So go check out Skrinntal if you can. I think that it's a really fun way to visualize and look at data or topics that you need to review. So highly recommend organizing and getting your ideas together through apps like Skrinntal, and even just a pen and paper writing out an outline of things that you need to review. Okay, so on that outline, not only do you want to outline things that you need to review, that seems kind of obvious, but you need to think of a plan of attack. And this sounds a little intense, but I feel like you need to sometimes just be really organized with what days you set aside for studying, time blocking. Maybe you do better in group settings, maybe you don't do better in group settings, or maybe you need a little bit of both. I think again, this goes back to metacognition and seeing how your brain works and seeing the best way that helps you to understand the material. For me personally, I like to study alone, and then I like to go with other people and study some more because they can kind of help me figure out those gaps in knowledge, but sometimes I might have overlooked them while studying by myself. However, if I start with a group, then sometimes I psych myself out, I get overwhelmed, and then I kind of get analysis paralysis. In this way, you can plan not only the topics that you need to go through, but you can plan how many days a week maybe you want to study, maybe how many hours of uninterrupted study time you want to do. And this is a perfect segue to another app that I love using, which is the Flora app. This is just such a fun little app that helps me stay off of my phone. I think one of the worst distractions ever is our phones. And so I use the Flora app because you can plant a seed and you have to let it grow for the certain period of time by not looking at your phone, not opening up any apps. And once you reach that time, then you grow your little tree and you have a little garden that you can look at your tree. It's very cute, and I feel like it's one of those things where you have a little reward and it also checks off things off of your list. So you can set timers and goals that you want in that app, and it'll remind you each day when it's time to study. One thing that I want to emphasize in your study plan that you might be making right now is to emphasize a lot of recalling information in your different methods. So for example, if you're by yourself, you can recall with flashcards, whatever it is, and that's a really easy way to force yourself not to look at the answer before you're recalling it, or to use that to warm your brain up a little bit before a study session that you're getting into. But if you like to study with friends, a good way to recall is to have your friends ask you questions and you explain it to them either verbally or you draw things out on the whiteboard and explain how to do the problem. Another way to do this is to just brain dump information after you review it or after you learn a new topic. Brain dump what you recall and then go back and see how much you're missing and how much maybe isn't setting in, and you can kind of hone in on the things that you don't remember. And again, as with planning, clearly you want a good way to plan. So definitely get yourself a good planner. I'll put a picture up of mine in the video by the company Still, and I can link it down below. I love this planner so much, and if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I'm obsessed with my planner just because it has a weekly view that you can plan out your actual schedule, but it also has this huge weekly spread for planning out your to-do list. And I'm a big to-do list girl, so this is huge for me. The next thing that I want to emphasize is to use all of your resources. I think that now it's so much easier, and even compared to when I was in college, sometimes I didn't know what to look up. I didn't know where to find it. And now there are so many resources out there. There's YouTube, there are textbooks for free online. And one thing that a lot of people are too intimidated to do, but you definitely should do, is reach out to upperclassmen or your professor. Sometimes it's just that conversation of someone putting something in simple terms that makes it click in your head. And you just never would have picked this up if you were just reading the book on your own, or if you were trying to figure this out for hours looking online. And sometimes if you just go to your professor, ask the right questions, figure out how their brain works, and sometimes even asking questions, you can get an idea of how they frame things and put it on the exam. So the last thing I want to say is kind of going back to metacognition. I didn't lay out things to do or things not to do, but more so ways to organize your study habits and ways to think about studying, because I think for each class and each person, the way you retain information can vary depending on how your brain works. For example, for me, I always did better in classes where I could just solve problems on the exam and not just recall memorizing tons of different terms. Sometimes when I had to memorize a lot of terms, even though it seems so simple for other people because you make a bunch of flashcards, for me that was overwhelming, and I had so many terms that I would get overwhelmed, and sometimes I would do worse on those exams than the exams that seemed really tough with the different problems. And so I encourage you to always reevaluate if your study habits maybe seem to not work. Definitely go back, and if you realize on the exam maybe you're worse at memorization like I am, maybe you need to hone in on a little bit more memorization time and a little bit less time doing the problem solving. Think about how your brain works, what works for you, and please let me know in the comments down below if you guys try any of these methods, if you have suggested methods of studying that help you out, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say. So I really hope in some way this helped someone out there, and if it did, please give this video a like. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!